Hello. This is Lisa Russick and Misty Lore with the podcast We Are All Psychic. And today we have a very, very invisible guest. We can't see her. Her name is Kari. And Kari, would you like to say hello?
Hello, and thank you for having me on your podcast today.
Thank you so much for coming. Do you think we're all psychic?
Yes, I think that we all have the capacity to be psychic.
And
So, I don't know if you want me to
oh, yes, please
expound.
expand. We love expansions.
Okay. So I'm a bit of a scientist and a dream analyst, and so I kind of like blend a lot of different things together in my work. And like when I think of the word psychic, if as a question, like what is it? Like I I kind of see it as the ability, like if we think of our four-dimensional world, there's three dimensions of space, and then there's one dimension of time. And we can move freely up, down, sideways through the three dimensions, but time seems to be something we can only follow like an arrow, right?
Yes,
So
I'm so excited you brought that up. Go ahead. So keep
so
going. You're exciting. You're
yeah, so
exciting me.
so I feel like, and that's just some part of our consciousness while we're awake, that we have that sensation of the moment ticking away like a clock. And what I find as a dream analyst, and it's something I've been doing for like 4 or 5 decades, like a long time, is that the parts of consciousness that are abated while we are asleep take away that sense that we are limited in time, and I call it sort of boundless, like anything's possible in the dreamscape. And a lot of times there's some very prophetic things going on, and we know it because during the day we might feel something like deja vu or
Yeah,
synchronicity. So there's a sense of us while we're dreaming that has this, knows where we're going, even while we don't, right? So we can attribute it to God or the higher self or just some evolutionary mechanism. And so in a lot of my work, I'm training people how on accessing that synchronicity, or what I call the 24-hour mind, like taking away the boundaries that, oh, that was what I dreamed and this is what I'm experiencing today, because it's all one story.
yeah.
And in that process, you could say we all become psychic, because we all start, as you get into that, moment, that endless moment without boundaries that you have when you're in the dream state, you start to have a sense of knowing and peace, and some of the things that I would say you would call psychic. You have a
I
sense of,
agree.
of where you're going. So that's my answer. Hope it wasn't too long.
That's really
Oh,
awesome.
that's
And
perfect.
it's all
Yeah.
about your subject too. Listeners, she is here to talk about what she just talked about, but in more lots and lots of detail, I hope. Um, so Carrie, am I pronouncing your name right? I didn't even think about that. Is it
Yep, yep.
Ari? Okay.
It's Kari, or Kari is this. Yeah,
What do you
yeah.
prefer?
Well, people call me either. Honestly, I don't care.
You don't
But
care.
you can call me Carrie. I'm used to that.
Okay, it does. So, like, yeah, I just didn't know. Listeners, she's on the screen just as her name. So I was like, all of a sudden, I went, oh my goodness, Kari. I've been calling her Carrie. What if it's Kari? And she didn't say anything. Oh, that's a nightmare right there.
Uh,
So, do you ever like what kind of clients? What kind of work? How do you do your work exactly? How do you teach people how to like strengthen and understand
okay.
themselves better through their dreams? What kind of work do you do? Explain it to the list.
Okay. So I have a website, and it initially rolled out as a dream dictionary. I put tools in there for people to be able to decipher their dreams. And then I was one of the first apps that were on Apple, really. Like I was in the top 10 for a long time. I had like a dream interpretation app.
That's
And
wonderful.
yeah, so that was kind of where I started. But
I
where I
probably
started,
used it.
exactly, I ended up selling it. But
Mhm.
so there's a reason we don't remember our dreams, and we can talk about that later. But because people have difficulty remembering their dreams, I started to develop the oracles. So I have the number one I Ching. I don't know if you know what that is, but
I Ching,
it's
I Ching. I always
basically,
called it I Ching. I didn't know it was I
well, it's
Ching,
I
but I know what
Ching,
it
I
is.
Ching.
Yeah.
It's you
Hey,
can
we're having
you
this.
can
It's more
We
of
all
the
chinga.
literature
yeah.
kind of. What's that? How's that pronounced? How's that
Yeah.
pronounced?
Yeah, so I have the number one. If you do a search for a free online I Ching, you get to my website.
That's yours.
I
Okay.
have, yeah, I have a tarot reading that allows you to do one card archetype sort of thing, or three card past, present, future, or even the Celtic cross. And what I find, okay, I get more than 1 million page views a month. So I get a lot of traffic on my
Nice.
website, and I don't actively go after clients, but somehow they find their way to me. And it's always like a blessing, honestly. Like in all the years I've been doing work with people, whether I'm writing a book, the person shows up that represents that chapter, or just each little piece of working with somebody else has really, like, it broadened my knowledge of all of this stuff. So
Yeah.
people initially, I was doing like really comprehensive dream work, and there's people that remember dreams like you can't even believe, like books and books, and
Oh,
like,
I know.
and
I
it
know what you're
was,
talking
I'm like
about.
that. I'm
Yeah,
like that.
Misty
I
remembers
yeah,
all
remember
her
my dreams,
dreams.
and they're crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then so then also do these sessions of 1 hour where we'll look at one dream, we'll look at a reading, and it just sort of unfolds itself in terms of what it is that that person needs. Sometimes it's like overcoming intimacy issues, maybe relationships, but it just unfolds. It's so beautiful. I mean, I wish you could be like a fly on the wall watching when it's happening. I mean, I really, really get so much out of it. And another thing is that, I've written a translation of the I Ching and the Tao Te Ching. I've studied ancient Chinese philosophy
Oh,
to the point that allowed me to write those
that's so
interpretations.
cool.
Yeah, because that was a culture that really observed nature as a role model for understanding the human journey. And so it's really beautiful. But if I was to sum up Taoism, I would say, it's a philosophy of removing boundaries. And
Yeah.
those boundaries exist between you and me. That's why what you would call a traditional psychic or medium doesn't have the boundaries, and yet it's kind of like I can be in your space if you're psychic. You know what I mean? Like we're
Yeah. We
part.
know
Well,
too. We know when our energies are touching.
exactly,
Woo.
exactly. And since the whole philosophy is about removing those boundaries, and my work in dreams is, I knew at a very young age, like I've been working with dreams since I was little, and I knew at a young age that they were as important as the experiences that we're having on our path during the day.
I
And so
agree.
yeah,
100%. I agree. Yeah.
yeah. And so I made it kind of my life's work to, like I remember being in school and having to choose between Freud and Jung. And I was like, I like them both. I mean,
Why do you have
Freud
to
wrote a
pick?
lot.
Yeah. They both have
So,
points. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like the condensation aspect, and even the idea of the unconscious came from Freud. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then and often I will see the transformative power of the message in a dream that would be very Jungian, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I can see the sexuality. Like I was just working with
It's about intimacy more than, yeah, it's about the closeness to people,
exactly,
it seems like, more than the actual act. But the act really does bring you very close to someone, closer than ever, I guess you could say, in a lot of ways. It's very,
yeah.
you
And
know,
so the dream is always like somebody. I always see it as like, hey, I'm so glad that I have the time to I can finally express myself. But and you can tell her or him, what's going
yeah.
on, and I feel like it's another way of understanding. Yeah. Anyway, so being an interpreter, it's like kind of just taking the language of the message that's coming from the person,
Yes.
and
I always think it's a language too. Like, I
yeah,
feel like it's everybody's personal language with themselves in imagery and
exactly,
feelings. And it's like the soul is talking to me. That's how the dreams seem to me. I don't know if
right.
this is how you interpret dreams, but usually when I will have them, I will look
Uh-huh,
back at the items. Like if there's like, I'm in the living room. Okay, what's in the
uh-huh,
living room? Is there a table? Is there a couch? Is what, and then you
uh-huh,
start noticing
right.
the things all around and what they represent to me personally is how I would
Uh-huh.
interpret my dream.
Well,
Like, and if
yeah,
I were
but
interpreting for you, I would ask you, what did that big giant clock mean?
uh-huh,
Did you
right.
have one growing up? And then you can get back, or, for me, that's always how I've done it. Like details are
Yeah.
kind of where
Well,
the,
the thing that I think keeps most people from understanding what the dreams are saying is, at least, again, after decades of like working with people and all the research, is everything in a dream is you. So, if you're,
yes, yes.
a house is going to be the paradigm or the way that you've kind of compartmentalized the way you express yourself
That's
socially.
how I've seen it too. Like as like
Yeah.
your life, your social lives,
Exactly.
where you put yourself.
Or your
Yeah.
bedroom, kind of the ideas that you're rising from, the kitchen, everything about nourishment, whether you feel nourished, the living room, maybe how you portray yourself in the front yard, even more so. Or
Yes.
so, yeah,
Yes.
there are some kind of universal, and like motivation is always described by transportation symbols. So like
Oh,
people
I
can
didn't know
dream
that.
that, yeah, like their car, my car, I lost my car. Well, something's going on in their life and they're trying to decide which way to go forward, or they're
Okay.
jumping off and on a train. And, that can represent sort of feeling pressed to go down a track that was laid before them that doesn't necessarily theirs. But yeah, so I guess my point when we were talking before, I call it the 24-hour mind, is why would we decide that this journey that we're having during our awakeness is giving us more information than the journey that we're having in our sleep world, right? Like
Yeah.
we are actually learning and transforming even more profoundly while we're sleeping. So the people that can open that barrier between, and this I can speak to why we don't remember our dreams if you want, but
Oh, yes, please. Like listeners, before the podcast, I had told Kari that I long time, like few maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago, maybe even longer, I turned off my dream recall. Like I just kept trying. And I also stopped my night terrors, and that was also part of stopping the dream recall. But the night terrors were really silly, Kari. They were just like the most ridiculous things, like tripping over a shoe. And I'd wake
yeah.
up screaming, but I'd learned to wake myself up before I started screaming so I could remember the
Uh,
dream. It was like something really strange and nothing scary.
well, that's the
And then I just
thing.
stopped remembering my dreams. So I'm trying to remember
Yeah.
them. So you can
Well,
help me
let
with
me
that.
let me just address like the bad part of what, like nightmares. Like
Yeah.
nightmares to me are the same as when a natural disaster is occurring on the earth. Oh no, the trees are falling, the
Yeah.
hurricane's blowing. Like it may look bad, but there's some way that nature's transforming itself by an earthquake or whatever it is that it's doing. It's very natural.
Yeah.
And in the same way, when people are having nightmares, there's more growth going on. They tend to remember the dream more. So I say nightmares are a good thing, that some power is
They're
being,
helping, they're healing in the end if you can
yeah,
figure them out. They are like a
yeah,
tower in the tarot. You're right.
right. And so, back to the idea of why we don't remember our dreams is, we're using more of the right brain, in my opinion. We're using more of like a holistic, more free, creative, imagery driven part of the brain when we're in the dreamscape. And yet the left brain is really, that's where our language area is. That's where a lot of our ideas and about judgments, and we turn everything that we see into words and dismiss it as if we've seen it before. It's not important. It's very limited. And when we're waking up and we're shifting from that right brain into the left brain, that's going to rule the day, unless we can think of a word that describes an image and or wake up gently or whatever, we immediately go into the side of the mind that hid away some of the information in the subconscious for a reason. It didn't feel like it was going to make people love us, so we pushed that side of our authenticity aside. Or
Yeah.
so that's why people don't remember their dreams. But luckily, what I see with the oracles is that you can still have a similar conversation with your unknown self if you're open, in the same way that you are in a dreamscape. You are completely open. You have no judgment. You don't even know that you're dreaming. You think you're awake. And if you can have that same sort of openness when you approach an oracle, it's you talking to yourself. So
Yeah.
it kind of works that way.
I agree. I agree. And if someone comes to someone like that to like for a reading or for a message, I feel like it's like the person who's giving the message will just not even remember it. That happens to me a lot when I do readings
Mhm.
and stuff. I just don't remember them at all. It's kind of like the dreams.
Right.
And I also like when I do remember my dreams, they're very important to remember, to notice them
Hmm.
in some way. About like it's hard to explain.
Hmm.
um for example, like everyone I've been married to or dated, I've been married twice, so that's two people. All of them. And people I've dated when I was younger, never dreamed of them until after we broke up, and then they were bad dreams. And the
uh,
person I'm with
what do
now,
you
I'm
what do you
dating,
mean by what do you mean by bad dreams?
well, the things that I left them for or that we had problems with would be like huge in these dreams, like just
Uh,
gigantic, like 10 times worse or seemingly so, and
okay.
exaggerated, and just, oh gosh, get me out of the stress dreams. It's really stressful. And the person I'm with now, I have all these really fun, happy, silly dreams, like dancing in Mexico and like, something just stuff I had a dream. We went to an old West bar and he had some spurs and I was in. I mean, it was just all these are dreams are just really fun and lighthearted and really interesting. And they're
Mhm.
always the two of us having fun. But I don't remember ever having those kinds of dreams with anyone else I've been with romantically. So
But it's probably you're more free with him to
yes,
be, to allow things to roll and not have to put up defenses.
that's very true. Yeah. I've known him for a long time too before we dated. So as friends. That makes a
Yeah.
difference. And I dreamed of
That
him in 2014 and I don't have good facial recognition. And the only way I can remember his face is if I remember that dream. I can see his face in that dream. Isn't that strange? Yeah.
yeah, definitely have your interesting way of classifying your ideas, right?
Everybody does.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I think. Misty, do you have any questions for Kari? You must have something.
Yeah. Do you believe that sometimes people, not people, beings from the other side can come into your dreams and help you as well?
Absolutely. And you don't even have to be dreaming for that to happen.
Right.
I don't make
But
my
I
life
think it
out of,
happens easier in your dreams, don't you?
well, it happens commonly in dreams
Yeah. Yeah.
because the person, and sometimes I see a pattern where it usually is within a 3-day period of them passing. A lot of times that more often than not, the grieving person in grief, the griever, whatever you want to call them,
Mhm.
will have that connection. And again, in the dream state, we're more open, so we're able to touch that. And the only reason that I say of course or act like of course, don't you know that? Because I've been working with people. Now I'm not like John Edwards, and I don't cultivate that in my life as a business or whatever. But I've had clients where I've had their relative come through and have information that I verify with them.
That's how it comes for me too. It's just if they ask, and then the spirit will be there. I think one medium taught me if you think of them, they are there, and that's always
Mm-hmm.
been accurate for me.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
don't really like classify. Like I don't know how that all works. Like I would
I
never say
don't
what.
either. I have no clue, and I would love to know. I have ideas, but I don't know.
But I mean, I've had relatives come through with some very powerful information that has changed the person's life that I'm working with.
I
Like,
bet.
they just are so blown away that I would even know these things, that they feel that that person is with them and is guiding them in the right
And you
direction.
can point out little things that they're doing to show that they're there. That's what they usually tell me. They're like, "Hey, tell her that I do this. Like
Yeah.
I make the sink drip, or I make the
Uh,
floor wet, or the rug messed up." It's always something that's annoying to the person. Usually, not always, but usually something that annoys them.
mhm.
And then they find out they're like, it doesn't annoy them anymore.
Yeah.
Sometimes the spirits
And
stop doing it too. That's kind of interesting. It's I've seen like if there is the dripping faucet, once you tell them faucet won't drip anymore. It's kind of I think the spirit discerns what would make them believe more. If it kept
mhm.
dripping or if it stopped dripping.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's just another example of like when Misty was asking about do we do this in our dreams? I definitely have had, I would say, a good 30% of my clients were or people that have written me to find out what that's all about. So it's very
Yeah.
common.
Yeah. It happens to me more. I can go into my dreams and remember everything about it. If I wake up and write it all down, I can definitely remember details. Or sometimes it won't hit until later on in the day and something will appear, like I'll look at a pencil and then it'll remind me of the dream somehow or something
Mhm.
silly like that.
It's
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
that's synchronicity, right? I
Yeah.
call it
What is that?
synchronicity.
How does that
Well,
work for dreams for you, Kari?
okay, so I hate to always sound so scientific or
I
like I
love
have
it.
all the answers or whatever, but what I found is that what we're born with some authentic nature, like that I know, or we're all different genetically. We've been designed by nature to be better than what came before us. We won't be like our siblings. We have a variation of a DNA mix that nobody's ever had before, and so we're very prone to our authenticity as being very important, but we're brought up in an environment that's constantly telling us who we should be.
Oh, yeah, I
we
agree.
right.
Yeah.
So our whole dream life is really like a swimming back to our authenticity, or peeling
Yeah.
away the junk that's black, that's keeping us.
Yeah.
Can we suppress our dreams if they don't want to hear what they are telling us? Because I think that's why I may have suppressed some of my dreams for a long time, and I'm just now starting to. Although I am asking, my guides and everything, help me remember. Because I used to be like Misty, and they used to be very vivid when I was probably up until I was about 38. Maybe it's about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Not anymore. So
that's common. That's actually common that you would not remember your dream. It's almost like, again, it just depends on what's going on. Because when somebody's going through really deep work with me, it's a big floodgate will open up, and they will be like blown away at the way that they're remembering their dreams. And then there comes a point where they stop remembering their dreams, and it's like the psyche goes into a different, process.
yeah,
And so back to the synchronicity idea, because I did want to kind of complete that thought.
absolutely.
So what I notice is then in our dream state, we're working through we're working to get away from the things that aren't us, where some part of us is leading us to a better expression of where we're meant to be. And what I notice is it's about 3 weeks that a person starts to like show the story of where they're going and start to go through the healing and transformation and all that these synchronistic things start to show up. And some of it's just that sense of like, the deja vu. Wow, that just seems familiar. But sometimes it's a full on, like, what you would call an initiation.
Yeah.
And if somebody has a lot of judgment around something that they think is dirty about them, and they're working through all these dream messages to come clean and get rid of it and and then they may all of a sudden confront a very similar scenario in real life that puts them on the spot to either declare, no, they're not dirty. And I'm just using, I'm putting this in simple terms, but, or to continue lying, so, and I see this over and over. So what I'm saying is what that tells me is that as we're working through something in our dream state, it starts to become a part of we start to, and so if we're not remembering our dreams, then we're not catching that this is happening.
Yes.
But for people that remember their dreams, synchronicity,
yes,
that's the first thing they'll tell me. It's like, oh my God, my whole life has become so synchronicity filled or whatever. And so, and then to answer your question, I would say 90% of people probably tomorrow will not remember what they dreamed. I mean, it's a huge number. And here's another interesting thing. When I was first doing dreams, okay, now we're going back into the 70s, right? Like I've been around a while. I'm like one of those medicine women, I guess.
We've got the knowledge then.
But when I was writing, and I guess it would have been the 90s prior to the app, and talking to publishers, they're like, oh, you're from California. Like they totally didn't think that there was any room in the world for a book about dreams. And then,
in the 70s?
No, this was in the 90s.
Oh, in the 90s? That's still weird. Yeah. The kids were loving that stuff. I mean,
but that's the point, is when I rolled it out into an app, I launched it, and that younger generation, the early adopters, they went for it like big time. And then I never, and then the books, I write the books just because they come to me or whatever. I write them, but so it was really, really heartwarming for me as to get to the point where today it's so common that people give credibility to their dreams. And I know maybe to you that sounds crazy, that who wouldn't, but I've been through long periods where people thought I was a nut job.
Me too.
For believing that dreams had any kind of relevance.
Yeah. I mean, I think all of us who work with energy or do anything and dealing with energy, we get, some people will just not want to deal with us, or they will just want to laugh at us or think we're frauds. And that really, and we had an interruption of the internet going boom. So Kari, what were we talking about? Or Misty was remembering what we were talking about, right?
Well, she was just talking about how in the 90s she wanted to write a book and nobody was interested, but she ended up doing the app, right?
And the younger generation is interested.
The younger generation grabbed onto that, and now you're writing the books.
Yeah. I mean, I write books because they come to me or whatever, but I don't, I'm not
You kind of feel a drive to write them, but you don't know what's going to happen with them.
Exactly. Like, and I don't, I mean, I'm done. I'm done writing dream books. Then I got into a lot of the Chinese stuff, and I've written books about, archetypes. That's really what my thing is now, is the same archetypes that appear in dreams that are in the Eastern version of the I Ching, that are in the Tarot deck.
Tarot, yeah. That's what I was just thinking of. And I it's interesting. There's a tarot app called Galaxy Tarot that comes with the Samsung, I think, or Android, and it's really good. It shows exactly what you're talking about. It shows the card corresponding to everything in divination, just about, including I Ching. So I've learned a little bit about. I have an I Ching set, but I haven't ever learned how to use it. But I've learned some of the corresponding I Ching to go along with the tarot cards, and it's really interesting. Yeah.
What's fascinating about the I Ching, I don't think a lot of people realize this. The I Ching is basically based on the idea that chance is either one or the other. And every time, like whether you're throwing Euro stocks or throwing coins with a head or tail, that's 2 opportunities for something, in 3. There's all these different variations or whatever. Or on my website, you click a button, but it's, again, the logic is like set up so that you get the same sort of chances. But the point is that we're talking about an open or a closed line, right? And so the I Ching has a hexagram that's got basically 6 lines, and it can be an open line, a closed line, or it can be an old open or old closed, which changes it then to the second hexagram. I mean, I won't go too much into that, but what I love about that oracle is it's so fluid. I love to live in a world that is not bounded in any kind of truths or limitations. But there's a guy, Leibniz, from, that was like basically a mathematician, philosopher, that turned the hexagram sideways, and that led him to come up with what is called the binary code. And that binary code of open and closed lines is our internet. It's our technology.
And so electricity.
Exactly. So here, and tarot is definitely the Western archetypes. Like, you can trace a lot of those symbols into, like, the Fool, Percival the Fool from the King Arthur tales, or, the Western versions of the archetypes, where in the I Ching, it's all kind of like, there's really 8 elements of nature, or, and there's like a simplicity to it, and a mutability that I mean,
that's really cool.
Like, you could tell a whole story with an open and closed line. Look at a website, So
I will.
Yeah,
I'm definitely going to.
No, I'm just saying in general, look at a website, like, look at so much information there, and it's really based on an open and closed line, or, there's like,
I see what you're saying. Look at, like, as an example, I was like, I will look at the website.
and when you read this, and when you read the Tao Te Ching, it's basically saying that, that there is the Tao, which doesn't need to have a name. It doesn't need to be explained, but it's the flow of change. It's the, thing that I was talking about earlier, whether there's a hurricane or good weather or whatever's going on, this natural phenomena, and it expresses itself in a very feminine, magnetic yin sensation, or a very aggressive masculine yang, sort of thing. And, like, if you think of electricity, because you were bringing that up, electricity is the flow of energy that is basically a charge that creates a field, the magnetic, that pulls the charge that creates another field. So you can't really separate the yin and the yang of it, and so much, like our weather systems, there's a high and cold, all these things that are just,
and they work together.
Yeah, they work together.
They have to be there. And it's like the cycle of life. How I love my cats, but they'll take down a chipmunk, and I don't like
it. Right.
Yeah, my dogs will too.
Yeah. Like a little something you just try not to think about sometimes. My cats are inside cats now, so they don't do that. They get
now we're calling
the roach sneaks in, they go
Princess Killer now.
Yeah.
Got her killing squirrels out in the yard.
Do you guys have dogs?
I have dogs. She has cats.
Yeah, I have 2 little indoor kitties. They're big indoor kitty boys. They like to eat.
Yeah.
And they're so sweet. I love them. She has 3 wieners. She has 3 wiener dogs.
I have a big boxer.
Oh, I
And
love
the
boxers. They're so
boxers.
I know.
cute.
They're so funny. Oh my
They're so
God.
lovable.
They are the real clowns. Yeah.
Yes, or they're good
So,
dogs.
Carrie, where can the listeners find you and find out more? I mean, you already know your apps, and I'll put all this stuff in the description of the podcast, listeners.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, I sold the app, so I don't have them anymore.
well, they'll still want to check out your
Yeah.
brilliance.
But
Maybe.
the website, Cafe a Soul,
Okay.
is basically there's, the oracles are in there. You can choose the different readings. They can contact me through there. There's a lot of videos that are like nature's inspiration for the human, journey, and
That's cool.
blogs, and like I said, when people feel called to reach out, maybe they've read books or something, or they've gone through the website or whatever. I totally work one-on-one with people, and I enjoy it, although I don't really go after it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they just come. Yeah.
Yeah, they
When they
just
find you,
come.
when the time's right, when they need you. I love that. That's
Yeah.
kind of how I work too. I you just wait until they come. So sometimes if I need, I really want to do readings, I usually hit up my friends. Can I give you a reading? And if none of them are around, then I'll start advertising or something. I do work on a phone line and I do have local clientele, but sometimes the phone doesn't ring. Sometimes no one texts you.
What
So
is your
jewelry
oracle?
as a side biz. So
What's your oracle of choice?
my oracle of choice.
Or do you use an oracle, or do you
I
just
use a tarot usually, and I speak with my spirit guides, and they give me
Mhm.
messages. That's the main two things. I usually am doing tarot, and my guides are talking to me. I also do palmistry and numerology, and I'm trying to wrap my head around astrology over years and years and years and years. I'm still working on it, and I like magic. I like it all. And so, but my main thing is tarot and talking with my guides.
I like I like the oracle too. I like the oracle and the tarot.
I like the oracle for just a message to me, and it's so interesting how it will always match up with what I need to hear or something,
Yeah.
a message I need to hear. That's usually why I go to the oracle deck.
Well, Lisa gave me my favorite oracle deck. Do you remember the name of it? Because I don't have the box.
It was Tarot of Mystical Moments, not tarot. It's the Oracle of Mystical Moments. There is a Tarot of Mystical Moments now, but that's
my favorite oracle deck.
Yeah, she reads that one, Carrie, just like she reading a regular book.
Yeah, that's kind of how I read an astrology chart. My aunt taught me astrology in the 70s. She was actually the astrologer to Ronald Reagan. Well, Nancy
my
Reagan.
gosh.
So cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
She had the Astrology Institute in Marina Del Rey. But like astrology is like a language. And
yes.
and if I'm working with somebody and they're like, I feel like astrology can provide so much information about why somebody gets stuck. Like it's very scientific.
I understand that too, especially when people talk about Chiron or Chiron or
yeah.
I don't know, they all pronounce it differently. Chiron, yeah, for you. I don't know. I've heard it so many ways. But when I tried to wrap my head around that in my chart, and I just worked on it and thought about it, it was an Aries, and it made so much sense. But I really had to think about like all the other planets' positions and why it was happening, because all the astrologers are like, well, it just is. They kind of don't really explain very well. Some, they're just like this. And
well, look at it like a language. Okay. That's why I, work with it, because when I see like a planet and a sign, and then the aspect it's making maybe to another planet and who's ruling that house, that's like putting letters together, like CAT looks completely different than CAB, like a cab or a cat. And, when I'm reading somebody's chart, it's like it just becomes like almost a movie. Like
that's
I
so
can
cool.
see, like, why are you counting in the dark? Or, what is the big secret with it's just like, I think it's the relationship that you develop with astrology.
Yes.
That is because I think people make it too analytical. Like
yes.
They're using, instead of approaching it more in that vein of creativity and allowing it to reveal itself, because it's like the code behind it, the HTML behind our life. That's the way I see it. Yeah. And my last book was about Babylonian astrology, and that was like, I swear my hair was on fire for 3 months when that book came through to me. But it was so interesting. Like cool. What we think of astrology is, I guess, maybe the Greek homogenization of it. Like it's turned into,
I know it's
like
been around for probably ever. I mean, palmistry has too, and the names of the mounts are named after astrology. I mean, it names of everything on your palms named after.
Yeah, so the Babylonian and Sumerian, they're the original stories. There's so much more that you can understand about, like Libra. because of the ravening dogs that it was associated with, or there's so much, and also their understanding of the sky, and a lot of our myths actually came from, obviously, like some of these celestial events or things that went on with the the equatorial crater. But what I found too was that they're at Göbekli Tepe. Do you know anything about like the ruins that they're finding?
No. Oh, you mean under the water?
Well, Göbekli Tepe's in Turkey, and they're finding it. It traces back to like 10,000 BC, and there's something called the Vulture Stone, and I've heard them describe it as like the vulture playing with skulls or something. But really, if you look at the thing in terms of like the astrological record from way back then, you can see that it's like the scorpion, because the Scorpio constellation was known, and then the sun rising over the mountain, the way the sun rebirthed itself. Like there's so much astrology in that one stone, which the only reason I'm bringing it up is that takes it back to 10,000 right BC, and we only know of the 2,500 year ago version.
I think I have a feeling we've been around the human
homo. Oh, for sure.
For like on and off. I think we're like the rats or the roaches. We don't die. We've been around forever.
Keep reincarnating over and over again.
Rats, roaches, and humans.
Yeah, and there's like, and one day we are going to discover that we have more ancient records than we realize.
I hope so.
I think so because they keep finding this stuff.
Yeah, they keep finding like sometimes they kind of like when they find stuff like that out, something that's pretty significant, pointing to that we've been here a lot longer than we think, or possibly other things have happened maybe like 40,000 years ago. Some people say that's when Atlantis was, and we had this big thriving culture then, and the whole world was lots of people have a lot of theories, and a lot of people say they know a lot of stuff that's been given to them as downloads, a lot of the field. I think that's really interesting to hear about everybody's points of view when they get that information about what may have been,
well, they in India, they uncovered a place in Ratnagiri. Like that they found all of these those drawings that are on the ground. I don't know, I forget what you call them. Like,
oh, I like those, the Naztec lines.
They look like
Naztec lines, or
but
the Nazca lines.
They have found like the symbolism of Pisces, the two fishes. But what's weird is that the Pisces fish basically straddled the celestial equator, and there's like a square there that the Sumerians thought was where the maize were, which was like the divine wisdom that's given to man, or blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And now when you think of the Pisces glyph, it has that bar through it. Have you, picture the two fishes in a straight line? And that bar is in the picture in 10,000 BC. And yet we go back to astrology only 2,500 years ago. We think that's when it started. I mean, so that kind of stuff really I love, because
that's definitely
up
my alley. I love ancient history stuff. Love it. It's like when I had cable, like History Channel, Science Channel.
That's all I watched.
That was my jam. That was what I watched. Yeah, on all the time.
So I love history too.
Well, this has been like one of the coolest podcasts. We have covered a lot of topics. We've like gone. You are like really intriguing speaker, and you have so much wisdom. I would love to have you back and explain the I Ching to me.
Yeah, for sure.
And right now I'd like to thank our sponsor, Everclear. Everclear is an advice app where you can get advice from psychics and empaths, so you can get the clarity you need to create the life you deserve. And Misty, do you have any other questions for Kari?
No, I just found everything very interesting.
You are fascinating, Kari. I just want to talk to Misty about you. She's fascinating. But I would like to know if you have any advice for the listeners. Maybe they oh geez, you covered so many topics. We'll have to ask a few questions for a few.
Well, I if I had to say what would be my one word of advice, is let go. Let go, don't control, don't judge, don't laid boundaries. Don't believe that the person that's yelling at you out there in time and space, can harm you, like something's going on with them or they're part of you. Have compassion. And I think like that, I was saying before, Taoism is that philosophy of removing boundaries. And it really is so nourishing to live in that unfolding moment where we're we're responsible or not responsible. We're just here sharing with each other. And, there's so much.
Not in the
I guess,
constructs of what society tells us to worry
right.
about.
What you were talking about before the show. There's so many narratives that, are just that these businesses that would be media, right? They're built on
their businesses. Yeah.
Yeah. Their business model is fear.
Yes.
And we can't help. I guess we entertain ourselves. The more fearful we get, the more we want to read. Don't you see that?
I don't know if you've seen the movie Nightcrawler. I think it's called Nightcrawler. It has I don't know if you've seen it, but it's about the ambulance chasing reporters who started that. They found out that if they like chase down these like massive accidents, this guy did. I can't remember. It was
the
guy
it
Donnie Darko, who played Donnie Darko, Jake Gyllenhaal. Yes.
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal.
And if you've seen it, then listeners, if you haven't, go watch it, Nightcrawler. But they talk about how the media started changing because they got more views. People started watching the fearful stuff. They loved it, like it was like entertainment, basically. So the news tried to be more entertaining that way and make everybody upset. And it seems like that's where it evolved to anyway, from my point of view. So
and I mean, I know it sounds trite to say you don't have to buy into that, but if you can hold to that moment and even with that, like, let's not put a lot of judgment in it, because it there's always been something like that vying for our attention, right? Yeah. Ever since we were in the desert in 10,000 BC, hitting each other with rocks, it's just, but we can make the choice to like keep our, psyche clean and not hold any grudges or not have any judgments, or so that would be it.
That's beautiful advice. Yeah. And I guess everybody has their own unique way to get there of letting go.
Exactly. Everybody's got their own little boxes in their head.
Yeah. So maybe we should explore that further another time. Like everybody's individual thing. Everybody on the whole planet, we're going over you.
Now, Misty, are you in Alabama too?
I am.
Oh, awesome. I haven't been there, but
where are you?
California.
Oh, California. What part?
Up by Tahoe.
Okay.
So I have like bears and mountains and trees and a river.
She was telling me about that. It sounds so beautiful, that river. Oh my God.
Sounds really pretty.
My brother's in California. He's outside of they're moving to Santa Fe. They used to be outside of San Diego. Now they're moving to Santa Fe and New Mexico.
Nice. I bet that's beautiful.
Yeah, they've always wanted to live there, so that's where they're going. They're retiring and going to live there, happy times, retired and in Santa Fe. I think it sounds beautiful.
Sounds like a good way to roll on.
Yes. And Kari, I'd really like to thank you for coming on the podcast. It's been just amazing talking with you. And Misty, hey, Misty. Thank you as always.
Thank you. It's nice to get to know you guys.
Yes, I really enjoyed this. I can't wait to mix the audio. It's going to be great. And listeners and no watchers today, just listeners. Thank you so much. As always, we love
our listeners.
Thank you and peace out.
Bye.
Bye.